Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean,
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
I'm just so used to barfing right now.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
I am ashamed to live in this world.
I am the devil. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing. Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb.
Hi.
And we are here to talk all things Apple this week.
Yeah.
They had some sort of thing that happened. I don't know, some news, a couple releases of something. I don't know, but, we'll talk about it. I mean, we never talk about Apple.
No, never. We never talk.
Always rumors. We talk a lot of Apple rumors.
This is true. Rumors is what it is. So
that is 90% of what is available about Apple. So,
well, you know what? I think we have somebody here that might have taken some notes. Definitely not me. I'm going to say that. I did not take notes on this one. Did not watch this. But I did see a couple things that I'm interested to see Caleb's opinions on and things. So, you know what, Caleb? Why don't you just take it away? Because you know what? You are our Apple guy.
All right.
Make it happen.
Okay, listener. I did it. I watched this keynote. I did it for you. All right. I didn't do it for me because, holy crap, after about the first 20 minutes, I wanted to take a nap. This was just my general thoughts overall. I was quite complimentary after Apple's spring event. They made a really tight hour-long presentation that had a lot of really cool new stuff announced, and it was great, and I loved it. This, the WWDC keynote, was not that. It was an hour and 40 minutes, and while they definitely talked about a lot of stuff, the vast majority of it was just your generic, run-of-the-mill incremental updates for their operating systems and software that could have been covered in a 5,000-word press release. That would have been just fine. We did not need this event, so thanks for that, Apple. Also, the Memoji audience thing,
oh my gosh,
stupid.
that was bad.
Awful. I wanted to.
So I had heard that they did that before I watched it, and then as I turned it on, I'm like, okay, that does sound bad, but it's Apple. Maybe it's. And then I watched it, and no,
it was
bad. Awful.
It's
so
bad. I was just like, wow, that is. Okay.
And it made it worse by Tim Cook looking around the audience too.
I know. It's just
there's literally no one there. Look at the camera.
You're performing for an empty auditorium. Just talk to the camera. Okay. So that was my general thoughts on the presentation itself. Now let's talk about the software updates. This is essentially the press release version, listener, and trust me, this is what you actually wanted. I'm not going to take an hour and 40 minutes to give it to you.
Thank you.
So they started off talking about iOS 15, which makes sense because that's the thing that most people actually care about. The first improvements are to FaceTime. So they are adding a number of features and improvements to FaceTime, some of which are kind of just whatever, some of which are kind of cool. So spatial audio, that's a thing in FaceTime now. I guess nobody's really surprised. They're adding it to pretty much all their audio stuff across the board. They've introduced more aggressive voice isolation and wide spectrum modes so that, as it is with most video calling apps, it does kind of some work in the background to try and isolate the voice of whoever is speaking and cut out any background noise. And what you end up with is something that's pretty good for talking in a reasonably quiet room. But if you are trying to talk in a loud environment, it cuts your voice out a lot. And if you're trying to, heaven forbid, do a socially distanced choir class or something like that, it doesn't work at all because it identifies the singing as background noise and cuts it out. So voice isolation is just way more aggressive at isolating just the voice and cutting out everything else. Does a pretty good job based on the demos that they showed. Wide spectrum does the opposite. It cuts out all of the voice isolation stuff and just sends across what your microphone is picking up. So if you want to do a socially distanced band, you can do it. They also added portrait mode, or are going to be adding. I should mention that this is not out yet, listener. Don't worry. They're going to be adding a portrait mode to it. Blurs out the background, just like in the photos. Cool. They've also made it so that you can generate links to scheduled calls or just links to a call that you can send to people, which, makes it so they click on this link. It takes them into the FaceTime call. All right, that's cool. What's actually cool about this is that you can receive this on an Android device or a Windows-powered device. You click on it, and it just opens up FaceTime in the browser so that you can do your calls there. So the next time somebody tells you, nah, I can't FaceTime with you, I don't have FaceTime, just send them a link and say, click on this, and they can FaceTime with you. I'm sure their experience is going to be worse than yours using the native application on your device, but
Caleb, I'm not FaceTiming with you.
Are you sure? It would be fun.
So,
Wes,
no.
come on.
Here,
As far as that sounds, I'd rather send you a link to Teams.
We're
That's a taste. Distaste. You see that?
We're just gonna have to agree to disagree here.
Hey, now, in Caleb's defense, FaceTime actually works really well.
If you both have Apple devices, FaceTime works great. That's the thing. If I'm using the native application of FaceTime, I'm having a good time. If I'm using the native application of Teams, doesn't matter what device I'm on, it's still not fun. Anyways. So the last thing that they announced for FaceTime, and this was actually like they gave it a name, and listener, you are going to notice this trend throughout this event. I'm going to be saying the names of features. Apple gave these things marketing names. They all universally suck, are useless, and I'm never going to use them in real life. But just so you know, here they are. SharePlay, which is a thing that allows you to share music, movies, screen sharing, and stuff like that over FaceTime. There's a couple of things about this that are pretty cool. First of all, yes, if you are watching like a movie or something like that, you can say, I want to FaceTime I want to share this with this person via FaceTime. Well, actually, the way that you get into it is pretty cool. So if you're on a FaceTime call and you swipe back to your home screen, the FaceTime call keeps going on. It just goes picture in picture and keeps happening. That's been a thing since last year. If you then launch the Apple TV app and start playing something, it's going to start playing that or it's going to give you the option to start playing that movie for whoever you're FaceTiming with. It will show up on their device, and it will automatically synchronize the time code so that you can basically do watch parties. If you have an Apple TV as well, you can then AirPlay the content to the Apple TV. The FaceTime call keeps happening on your phone so that you get a better screen for FaceTiming, but you can watch it on your bigger screen in your house. That's kind of what SharePlay does. It allows you to synchronize your music and your movies for watching stuff or listening to stuff with your friends and family via FaceTime. It also will give you the ability to screen share. So the next time that your grandma calls you and is all like, I'm having some trouble with the notes and the things and the words, and you can just be like, Grandma, I'm just going to just click this button so that I can see your screen.
Is that what your grandma sounds like?
Look, both of my grandmothers are dead. So at this point, maybe, I don't know. It's how do vocal cords sound as they decay? Anyways. So that's SharePlay. It's automatic the way that it kicks off. It brings screen sharing, which is pretty cool. And it's going to be available to other app developers as an API so that they can make their stuff tie into the SharePlay functionality just the same as Apple's apps do. So that's FaceTime. Some good stuff. Messages is next. Not available for Android, which after the announcement for FaceTime, everybody I'm sure was kind of like, no, it's no. There's actually not that much, but again, they have a new named feature for messages, which is like, okay. So they've made refreshes to how content displays in messages as you share content between users. And then they have a new feature called Shared With You, which means that people that send you photos or music links to Apple Music or articles in Apple News, that sort of thing on your in your messages, those items will automatically get surfaced in a new shared for you space inside of the Apple Music app, the Apple News app, and so forth. It's, I guess, convenient if you talk with a lot of people that have Apple devices and they share a lot of content via Apple services with you. I don't. So like,
yeah, it's like if your group of friends all subscribe to Apple One and have iPhones and Macs and all this stuff, this is going to be very beneficial to you.
yes.
But if you're a normal person out there, this is just something that is there now.
Yep. And you may notice it once or twice, like in the odd chance that somebody does share something with you who has an iPhone and they read their news in Apple News, because some people do that. I mean, I guess I do that occasionally, but
I do think the photos aspect of this will be beneficial, because it's almost like airdropping photos, because it automatically will put it into an album inside of Apple Photos for you. I like that one. Other than that, most of it's just going to be, okay, whatever. But the photos thing, actually, I think will be beneficial to a lot of people.
Yes. So that's shared with you. That's messages. Moving on to notifications, which is a thing that Apple does.
Poorly.
They don't do it well, but they do it. They have changed. They made some display and organizational tweaks, the likes of which we have seen before. I've been down this road before. They have made promises. Improvements have been slow and very, very minor. And I have just stopped using notifications in iOS, basically. But they did introduce a personalized, specific do not disturb thing called, and here's another marketing name for you, Focus, which is actually kind of nifty. It's going to allow you to change which apps you get notifications for based on specific do not disturb settings, such as like I'm working, or I'm not working, or I'm driving, or so on and so forth. And, you know, like, that's kind of cool. I think the best part about that is it looks like you're actually going to be able to tweak which home screen you get for each of those modes. And that part I might end up using. But yeah, the other cool part about Focus, I suppose, is that if you set one focus on one of your Apple devices, it'll automatically set on all of your other Apple devices, which, okay, also pretty nifty. So the Focus thing itself has some ancillary functionality that I think is going to be really interesting, but it's not that big of a deal. And notifications, I don't know. There's some improvements, but nothing major. It's not really fixing some of the fundamental problems that I have with notifications in iOS. But whatever. I don't use them. I'll just keep not using them.
Deal.
All right. So they have a couple of other just generic improvements to iOS. One of them, great name for this sucker, Live Text. This is a feature that captures text from photos, identifies objects and landmarks in photos. Thanks, Google.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Google Lens.
This is Google Lens.
It's basically Google Lens. Now, that being said, I do think that system-wide it is implemented better than Google Lens because it's Apple. That's kind of their strength, is taking features that other people have developed and implementing them at a system level in a way that just works better across their operating system than anyone else.
Now, that being said, Google Lens on Android works basically identically to the way this will work on iOS. But that's just because of the way it works, you know, because Google controls Android, they can do more with it.
There are a few things that I like better about Apple's version, but it's nothing groundbreaking. It's basically just Google Lens on iOS working the same way that you would want it to as a native system level API.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that. They've also made improvements to Spotlight. Spotlight's already pretty awesome. So improvements to Spotlight, cool. Thanks. I like it.
You know, this is still one thing I don't think I've ever used. Ever on any of my devices.
And I literally cannot fathom how that is possible. I cannot imagine using macOS or iOS without Spotlight. Granted, less so on iOS. I use it mostly on macOS, but that is how I launch literally all of my apps. Even if they're in the dock. With almost no exception, I just command spacebar, start typing, hit enter, and the app launches. So Yeah, that's definitely a difference in use case that I'm not sure I can understand, but whatever. They've also added a feature that is going to, I guess, tune up the memories section in Photos, the memories album in Photos. Now it will automatically select songs from Apple Music if you have Apple Music and use those in your album playback and stuff. So that's nifty, I guess, but I don't really use them.
It's one of those that I think I get why they're doing it. It would make for a better experience if you look at those memories things, because you're not getting just a generic random elevator music that you always get with any other Photos app. You're getting actual music that you like. Like if you use Apple Music, it knows what you listen to, and it can take what you listen to and put it in there, and it makes for a much better experience. But again, if you don't use Apple Music, then
what's the point?
It's not going to be beneficial to you at all.
Quite frankly, even as a user of Apple Music, there are a lot of things I like about Apple Music, for sure. But one of those things is not its ability to pick songs that I want to listen to at any given moment. Like, this is the app that I'm going to rant about Apple Music for a second. I am a huge fan of a band called They Might Be Giants. Alternative band, been around since the late 80s. They're great. They're prolific. They release a studio album like every other year and singles just constantly. It's insane. It's actually kind of hard to keep up on how much music that they have, but every single one of their tracks launches on Apple Music, which is nice. I have their entire discography in my library. I listen to it regularly. You would think of all of the people in the world that Apple Music would have pegged me as one of the people whom should be notified anytime They Might Be Giants releases a new track. And yet, and despite listening to my quote-unquote new music playlist basically every week, if not every other week, I regularly miss releases from They Might Be Giants. I find out about them on Twitter and then I have to go add them myself like 3 weeks later. It's just frickin' Apple Music, man. So I don't know that this is necessarily going to work out quite the way people will hope it will in the Memories album and Photos, but it's probably better than nothing. Now, let's move on to the wallet. They've made a couple of additions here. First of all, smart home keys now supported inside the wallet app, which is good because that works toward bringing all of the smart home functionality in HomeKit into one place, like just Apple's controlled stuff, and it all ties together instead of having to use a whole bunch of different apps on your device for each of your different smart home things. That being said, I'm still not a fan of smart home devices, generally speaking. But for people who are, I definitely understand why this would be wanted. A thing that I am a fan of is not carrying my wallet around. Driver's licenses are coming to the wallet.
Yay! And this is something also Google announced fairly recently as well.
Yes.
And conveniently, we live in a state that is currently trialing this. They have 100 people right now in Utah that are doing this. I've signed up to be in the next set is going to be like 15,000 people. So I'm hoping that I can get in on that, especially now that my phone will do this.
Yep.
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to this.
I am so stoked for this. And yeah, it's been one of the things where Apple was all like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. They're like, we're going to redefine the wallet. And I'm all like, but I have a driver's license. You can't get me to go walletless if I have to carry my driver's license around. But if I don't have to because it's on my phone, then okay, actually, this is finally, we're getting to the point where they redefine the wallet 4 or 5 years on.
I regularly don't carry a wallet with me on just because I usually just leave it in my vehicle. But the problem is if I drive my wife's vehicle, I have to remember to go grab my wallet so I have my driver's license. This will make it so I don't have to do that because I always have my phone. And I'm very much looking forward to this.
Yep. So that's the wallet. They've also made some improvements to the weather app. It's pretty cool. Basically, it's turning into dark sky. Apple bought them, so I don't think anybody was surprised. But there it is.
I mean, it did improve last year as well when they bought Dark Sky.
It did.
But this is just getting even better. I'm surprised it took this long to implement these things, but I'm glad that it's finally here.
Yeah. I mean, especially since the weather app is actually one of the few that like you can that they can update without basically doing a whole system update. The weather app does not tie into that many things in iOS.
Right. It's weather.
Then maps. And this was kind of the last big thing that they talked about for iOS 15. They have made some cool rendering changes inside of the app that will help with like lane selection when you're exiting on a freeway or something like that. But most of what they have done is just eye candy to kind of bring it up more to par with Google's Street View, and not necessarily Street View, but Google's like zoomed in street level 3D visualization of cities and towns and that sort of thing. They've made some transit and walking improvements as well, along with augmented reality walking navigation, which again is stuff that's in Google Maps already. Apple Maps it's always like a little bit behind Google Maps. I guess that's understandable. I kind of feel like Apple isn't actually developing features for Apple Maps. They're still just playing catch up for Google Maps.
Yeah.
But the app itself is integrated well into the OS. And at this point, it does work well enough that I just use it and it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it can't get any worse than it started out as.
That's true. I mean, it works now. So that's a huge improvement.
It will get you to where you need to go most of the time now.
Yep. And in fact, the accuracy of the app seems to be basically on par with Google Maps.
Yeah.
Like if I will occasionally come across to like a street that's super new or something like that isn't showing up on Apple Maps, and I'll look on Google Maps and it also isn't showing up there, like just because it's brand new. I will say that Google does tend to handle that a little bit more gracefully than Apple Maps does. Apple Maps will sometimes just like will direct you to a place on a street that is kind of close by as the crow flies and be like, okay, here you go. And it's like, okay, thanks. Now what?
Yeah.
Whereas Google will actually kind of drop you at the end of where the new street is. Sometimes Apple doesn't do that. So, still improvements to be made. They're making some of them. And that was pretty much it for iOS 15. Definitely some cool features being added, but that was a good, 30 minutes of the presentation. And gosh dang it, it just was not worth that. All right. So moving on. The next thing Apple talked about was AirPods. They have introduced a new feature. Again, it's called Conversation Boost. Basically what it is it turns your AirPods into low-end hearing aids. So if you have a hard time hearing people in conversation, you can just leave your AirPods in and it'll hear the conversation in the microphones and amplify it and pipe it into your ears directly. So, yep, low-end hearing aids.
Yeah, basically.
They've also added them to the Find My network, which means they'll be easier to find, first of all, but they will also be used to like ping Bluetooth devices and help find other stuff as well. So cool.
I didn't know that these weren't in that already.
It is kind of strange.
I guess I just assumed that they were. It would make that's the type of product that you would hope would be.
Yeah.
Because people lose the individual ones regularly.
Yep.
Well,
I think that they started out basically with this like the Wi-Fi and cellular enabled devices and have been working down from there. With the launch of the AirTags, I think it's kind of surprised they weren't added at that point. And the fact that it's taking until, WWDC and the software releases that are coming over the summer to get that's a little weird. Feels a couple of months late, but whatever. It's coming.
Yeah.
They've also added spatial audio for use with the TV, with the Apple TV, which is the space where spatial audio actually makes sense with AirPods. So I remember when they introduced spatial audio last year and I was like, I don't understand why you would introduce this for use with iPhones and iPads. For the Apple TV, sure, I get that. Here it is. Yeah. Finally, spatial audio makes sense to me. They'll also be supporting Atmos in Apple Music and a bunch of repeats of the stuff that we heard about at the spring event, or no, sorry, not the spring event, the stuff in their press release when they announced lossless audio for Apple Music and the improvements that were going to be coming to AirPods there. They just kind of rehashed all that stuff. So that's AirPods. Next up, iPadOS 15. Not a whole ton to talk about here, aside from obviously all of the changes that were made to iOS 15 will also be available in iPadOS 15. But they made a few nice things. First of all, widgets on the home screen.
Yeah, weird.
Finally, like, what the crap? Why
this
did that
should have
take...
come to the iPad before it came to the iPhone.
Or at the same time. Like, why
At
the
least
crap
at
was
the
that
same time.
on the iPhone last year and not on the iPad until this year? But anyways, they're coming finally, along with the app library. Again, finally. To be fair, the app library that we're going to be getting on the iPad is a bit more Launchpad-esque, like on the Mac, than it is app library-esque on the iPhone. But that makes sense. The screen's a lot bigger. So, okay. They've also made some changes to multitasking. The most important of which I feel is the addition of a shortcut in multitasking supported apps. Instead of having to use their cryptic swipe gestures in order to get things to do their thing, you can just tap on the little shortcut and then pick where you want the app to go on the screen, and then pick which app you want to put on the other side of the screen, and it just works. So thank you for simplifying that. I don't know who decided we can't put a button on the screen. It all has to be mystical gestures and like cryptic. I don't know. Somebody made a bad call. They're fixing it. So thank you. They've added a quick note gesture with the pencil on the iPad, which is, from what it looks like, very similar to gestures that have been around on Galaxy Note phones from Samsung for a while.
Yeah.
Just allows you to kind of grab from the corner of the screen and swipe in with your pencil to make a quick note. All right, cool.
Honestly, I want this on the iPhone, even if it doesn't support the pen or the pencil, whatever it's called. Use your finger and then just write it or type it. Like, quick notes like that are super handy to have access to. Yep,
it sure would be nice. They've also introduced system-wide translation for text, which, all right, cool. Now, the big news with this one, and it didn't actually have a marketing name, which I'm surprised, they have upgraded Swift Playgrounds, which is their learning to code app that is, it's actually pretty cool from a teaching STEM perspective. Now lets you build apps for iPads and iPhones.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You can start from there, basically build up an entire app inside of Swift Playgrounds, and then publish it to the App Store.
Yeah.
So,
now, from what I've heard from people that are developers or that know a little more about this, you're not obviously not going to be any major robust apps. It's going to be pretty basic stuff. But the ability to have it there is pretty cool. I think this is something that's leading to eventually having Xcode for the iPad, at least the iPad Pro, because the iPad Pro can handle it with an M1 chip.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people were hoping for that to happen at this WWDC. I expect it maybe next year at this point.
I think that's reasonable. I think that Xcode definitely seems like it's going to be coming to the iPad soon.
Yeah.
So, that's iPadOS 15. Again, some nice stuff, but nothing worthy of really having a keynote. Next, they talked about privacy across the ecosystem. There's a couple of things that they have introduced. Mail across the ecosystem is going to now hide your IP address, location, and status from the trackers that are embedded in emails, which that's nice. Most of those are just used by services like MailChimp to provide analytics to marketing firms, for sure. But some of it is used for phishing attacks and spear phishing attacks and that sort of thing. So, still nice that they're blocking that stuff. Safari is also going to start doing the same with anonymizing your IP address by basically just bouncing it off of stuff. So that's nice. There are some improvements to the privacy report inside of Safari as well, basically just making it easier for you to see and visualize what's been going on with your online activity. And Siri has, well, okay, I don't want to say they've moved Siri on device, because Siri's always been able to do some on-device processing. They've made Siri less crap at on-device processing.
Yes, that is a good way to put that.
So she's now capable of doing things when you're not connected to a network. But here's the key. They're actually doing those things on device by default now, instead of sending it to the server, which, again, anonymizes your data, keeps more of stuff on your device, which is nice.
Good.
So that was their just generic ecosystem-wide privacy-focused stuff. They moved from that into talking a little bit about iCloud. The two things that I felt like were really interesting about this is again, they've made a name for this, digital legacy contacts, which are essentially for when you're dead. You go into iCloud and you set up contacts for your digital legacy so that when you die, they can go to Apple and request access to all of your crap, and Apple will give it to them. So they can get photos and so on and so forth.
There was one thing that they talked about with this that's different, but it's the ability to have someone else be able to authenticate your iCloud stuff. So like say you lock yourself out of your device, they can send a code to the other person to be able to get in and not have to, like I've had to reset people's devices because one time in particular, my daughter locked out my mother's iPad for I don't even know how many years it was going to wait for.
Oh, gosh.
And my parents didn't remember their iCloud password. So I had to, it was a pain in the butt. I got it to work eventually, but this will eliminate that because they can send a code to the other person and authenticate it that way. So I'm actually really looking forward to that because it'll make my life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Yes. So, cool. When this drops, it seems like a minor thing, but everybody go ahead and set a few of those digital legacy contacts.
Yeah, it's just a good idea.
They've also announced that iCloud Plus, which it's the first time I've ever heard them refer to paid tiers of iCloud as iCloud Plus. But if you're paying for iCloud storage, apparently you get iCloud Plus. They're introducing private relays and hide my email to that. So hide my email functions basically the same way as the sign in with Apple option inside of apps and websites and that sort of thing, where Apple will feed them a fake email, and then what emails that get sent to that address will get forwarded to you, and you can just burn those emails at any time or get a new one. The difference is that instead of that happening automatically, hide my email will just kind of feed you several of those, or you can create as many of them as you want. And it basically just simplifies the process of creating a burner email account, which I've definitely done tons of times for signing into I don't want to hear about all your marketing bullcrap on this one particular website, but you require me to submit an email in order to, and I know you're going to sell it. And I know, so I make a burner email account, feed it to them, reply to the one activation email that I get, and then never log into it again. Yeah. And so it's basically simplifying that so that instead of having to create 10 or 12 iCloud addresses, you can just feed 10 or 12 fake iCloud addresses to various websites, and stuff will get forwarded to your address, but you can go into your iCloud preferences and say, you know what, just no, I don't want to see anything from this one anymore. And it's just gone. So that's nice. Private Relay is functioning sort of the same way that the IP anonymization does in that Mail is doing for your emails, but it's for basically your entire online presence. So it's not quite a VPN because it's not encrypted, but it'll bounce your traffic around along Apple's private relay system inside of iCloud to kind of anonymize your presence on the internet and make it much harder for ads to track you, for websites to track you, and so on. So that's their iCloud improvements. Next, they moved on to talking about health stuff. Guys, Apple Watches are a great health accessory, but this is just not my jam. I did not take many notes. I did not pay much attention to it. But listener, if you have an Apple Watch for health purposes, Apple cares about that, and they're doing some health stuff. So that's nifty. Then they moved on to talking about watchOS specifically. So I do have some notes about the things that they introduced directly to watchOS. They're redesigning the Breathe app, and it's now including reflection prompts, which will just kind of prompt you about what to reflect on while you're breathing. They've also introduced sleep respiratory rate tracking and notifications associated with that, so it'll track how you're breathing while you sleep. It's adding support for Tai Chi and Pilates workouts to watchOS. Along with all that, Fitness Plus is now going to have a new set of workouts with Jeanette Jenkins and artist spotlights for Apple Music. So, you'll be able to get specific spotlighted playlists for particular artists while you work out, if you want. They've added a portraits watch face, which takes a portrait mode photo and uses the depth information inside of the photo to kind of do some fun parallax motion and stuff like that with the watch face itself. It's kind of nifty. They've also redesigned the photo app inside of watchOS, and there's a new messaging system for drafting messages and replying to messages directly from the watch, which, again, they're moving more and more toward the watch being a completely standalone device, not requiring an iOS device at all. Soon, you'll be able to use the thing completely as apart from an iOS device. They just need to make it so you don't have to have an iOS device to set it up. And that's it. So that's watchOS. We're approaching the future we all wanted, where you could just opt out of having a phone and just get a smartwatch instead. We're getting there, but not quite there yet. Now, HomeKit. They actually talked about HomeKit in its own standalone portion of the event. They didn't necessarily say a ton, but, I'm impressed. Doesn't happen often. So they spent most of the time recapping how everything applies to HomeKit, stuff like the digital keys inside the Wallet app, how FaceTime sharing works between your various HomeKit devices, so on and so forth. They have confirmed that the HomePod Mini is soon going to be able to be paired to an Apple TV to act as a speaker for it, and it's going to be available in new regions. And they've made it so that Siri is going to be available on third-party HomeKit devices. So that's been a thing that has been available in the Google and Amazon ecosystems for smart homes for a while. You get a third-party device that had Alexa integration or whatever, and you could talk to your thermostat. That's coming to HomeKit with Siri. Not sure if that's a net positive, because Siri, but, we'll see.
That's a fair thing.
What is a net positive, almost undoubtedly, is support in HomeKit devices is being added or support in HomeKit, generally speaking, is being added for the Matter smart home accessories, which is kind of, it's an open source ecosystem of smart home devices that Apple has been supposedly pushing toward since they made HomeKit an open ecosystem last year, I think it was. So that means wider support for devices and open source development for devices, which should improve security.
Yeah. It also means that there will actually be devices that support HomeKit.
Right, yes.
I think that was probably their biggest
important.
push. I think that was their biggest push. It's like, people will actually start using HomeKit the way we want them to.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, they need to add support to HomeKit for a few more things before that's going to work, like
right.
Robot vacuums and that sort of thing. But, baby steps. Baby steps.
Getting there.
So that's HomeKit. Now, the last thing that they talked about on the operating system software side of things that applies to consumers is macOS Monterey. That's the name of the next version of macOS. They rehashed that FaceTime, messages, the focus modes for Do Not Disturb, quick note stuff, that all applies to macOS as well as iPadOS and iOS. And then they introduced probably the single coolest thing of the entire event and spent almost no time talking about it. They did a quick demo. I about wet my pants and then they moved on. And I am still upset about this. Is the only thing that justifies this being a keynote, was being able to see the demo for Universal Control. I will actually probably call it Universal Control. This is the only made up name that they introduced in this event that I might actually use. So, listener, if you have multiple Apple devices, you're familiar with continuity. Continuity is a thing that they introduced way back in like iOS 7 originally, that essentially is their idea that all of their stuff should just work together seamlessly. And so, that's what gave us stuff like AirDrop. That's what gives us the shared clipboard that allows you to just copy and paste text from one device to the next, and so on and so forth. Continuity is great. The latest improvement to continuity, called Universal Control, allows you to share a single mouse and keyboard between a Mac and an iPad. So, what's interesting about this is that there's zero setup. That's the only thing that makes it different from solutions that have existed before. I have used solutions that have existed before in the open source community and the paid community for sharing a mouse and keyboard across devices and across ecosystems too, between Linux and Windows devices and Macs and Linux devices and so on and so forth. It all requires setup, and you have to discreetly turn the feature on inside of both operating systems. Universal Control does not do that. You plop your iPad down next to your Mac, you drag your mouse cursor towards the side of your screen that the iPad is sitting on. I don't know how well that's going to work in all cases, but if you have a laptop, and it should be pretty seamless. And once it hits the edge of that screen, you will see it pop up on the edge of the screen on the iPad. If you keep dragging past that point, it just boop, pops onto the iPad, pairs the two devices, and you can now move this thing back and forth between the operating systems as if it's a shared desktop environment. The demo looked absolutely insane. And my favorite part is that you can freaking drag and drop files and stuff between the two devices. Just click, drag, drop, it transfers. Everything is done seamlessly behind the scenes. You set up nothing. You turn on nothing. You configure nothing. You just sign into both devices with the same Apple ID. So that's pretty cool. The best part was right at the end when Craig Federighi, who was demoing this, just is all like, and by the way, it works with more than two devices. So let's grab this iMac here and slide it over. He just grabs an iMac, slides it over next to the Mac or the MacBook Air, I think it was, and the iPad Pro that he's using. He grabs a picture out of Procreate on the iPad Pro, drags it across the desktop of the MacBook Air and onto the desktop of the iMac and drops it there. He dragged that thing through 3 different operating systems with one gesture, and I about wet my pants. And he turned around and said, "Cool, huh?" And then moved on. And dang it, Apple. Like, I want to see more of that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
That
this
is
feature
really cool.
sounds, I mean, I was kind of tempted. I mean, I'm looking into getting a new iPad as it is anyways. And I was liking the idea of having the secondary display, use that for my iPad for that.
Yeah.
But this makes it even more useful. I mean,
yes,
that's so cool.
Yeah. Like the whole display. Okay. What's it called when you can use an iPad as a display wirelessly or via lightning cable? You just plug it into your Mac. You can use it as a display, or you can just select it from a list inside of your operating system. It's pretty cool. You can use it as an extended display for your Mac. That's great. In certain apps, you can use the pencil and touchscreen support. All of that is really useful feature. I'm glad it's there. But Universal Control is going to let you use the two devices in concert with each other while still benefiting from the unique and improved app experience for each one. You still get all of the great touch-enabled apps for the iPad, but it feels like it's part of the same desktop as your Mac. And that is the real awesome thing about this. This is the kind of thing that only Apple is in a position to pull off. And it's them introducing this sort of software thing that is the only reason I'm still in their ecosystem, quite frankly, because I don't care what anybody says. And I guarantee there are people out there saying it. Nothing that you can hack together using open source libraries or even paid services and for any other operating system combination will ever be as close to as easy to use and as functional as whatever this as Universal Control is going to end up being. I know that because I had the exact same reaction when they first introduced continuity back in the day. Everybody is all like, whatever, you can do that between Windows and Android, whatever, you just use this and this and this, and it's all the same. And you want to know something? Technically, yeah, but no.
Yeah, it doesn't just work.
It doesn't just work, and it is so much more of a pain. So yeah, no, I'm real excited about Universal Control. They've also introduced a couple of other things in macOS Monterey. I guess we'll talk about them real quick. First of all, you can now AirPlay stuff to content to your Mac. instead of just from your Mac to your Apple TV. All right, that's nice. Shortcuts. The Shortcut app is coming to Mac. It's not replacing Automator. Don't panic. I suspect that in the future, the functionality of Automator is going to get rolled into Shortcuts so that Shortcuts will do both. I don't think they're ever replacing Automator. It's just going to get included. But if you have a whole bunch of shortcuts, automations, and stuff like that, now you can use them on your Mac. And they've redesigned Safari once again. It's even more minimalist. Am I old, or does that just not matter anymore? I don't know. Safari is already pretty freaking minimalist. I don't know. But yeah, now tabs appear in line with the address bar at the top instead of just below it. So like, it really is just the address bar at the top with like 4 buttons and then your tabs. Cool. Thanks. They did introduce cross-device tab groups, which you can share with other Apple users. That's kind of nifty. So if you make a grouping of tabs on your Mac, then they'll show up on your iPhone and you can share that entire group with people. And they redesigned Safari on the iPhone as well. Don't know why they didn't talk about this in the iOS section, but whatever. The address bar is now at the bottom of the phone instead of at the top, which makes it a lot easier to reach with one hand if you're not intelligent like me and got the mini iPhone. So
I wouldn't necessarily say that's an intelligent move, but okay.
No, it was the smartest thing I've ever done. Love this phone so much. Anyways, so that's macOS Monterey. The one headlining feature of the entire event, universal control, and then a few other things that, whatever. That's nice. At that point, they got around to talking about a few things that are specifically for developers. If you're a developer listener, I don't know, this isn't really the podcast for you, but, if you're a consumer interested in what developers are doing, I got you covered. They're introducing new APIs for the new FaceTime features, for widgets on iPads, so on and so forth. All that stuff is going to be able to be tied into by third-party apps. They're updating, or I believe they're introducing, actually, an object capture API, which is basically enabling app developers to create app experiences that will allow you to use AR to basically do photogrammetry for creating 3D objects. That's pretty cool. You don't have to do any modeling with that. You just walk around a device taking photos from every angle, and the API will put that together into a 3D object and spit it back out. That's pretty sweet. They've made some updates to Swift, their programming language. They've improved concurrency but with processing so that it can make more efficient use of multi-core processors and gives you better access to them. It'll significantly simplify multi-core development. They made a few changes to the App Store. You can now, as a developer, create in-app events and surface those updates in the App Store the same way that you would an update to your app. They've also given you some new storefront controls relating to screenshots and app icon trialing, so that you can see click response differences and download differences based on the app icon being different without having to completely resubmit the app for review. They've also introduced Xcode Cloud. So cloud-based Xcode, which is a thing that you do have to pay extra for, but it basically gives you access to a cloud build server and testing environment, as well as automatic test flight distribution for testers in either your testing team or your user base. And test flight itself is actually also coming to the Mac. So you can now use test flight to trial your new Mac App Store apps. So those are the developer features they talked about in the main keynote. The main keynote has always been mostly about the consumer-facing improvements they've made to their software. If you're a developer and you really want to know more about the developer stuff they talked about at the Worldwide Developers Conference, the keynote is not for you. It's for press. And I don't know when that changed, but you really want the classes that happened after the fact. Those should all still be available on Apple's YouTube channels and their website. So definitely go check those out.
I've noticed with both Google and Apple, they've now started having their main keynote and also a developer keynote afterwards. And so it's like, yes, definitely the main keynote is for the customer and the press. And then the stuff that developers care about is going to be after the fact.
Yep. So the last thing I wanted to mention is that despite rumors to the contrary, there were no new hardware announcements, and that's probably what made it feel like an hour and 40 minutes was way too freaking long for the amount of stuff that they covered. Now, the developer betas were available as of the thing launching. Public betas are going to be available starting sometime in the next couple of weeks, and the operating systems will all be launching in the fall as usual. They did not talk about device support specifically, but I'm pretty sure the only thing they're dropping is the iPhone 6.
That's what I heard.
I don't think that the iPad, like the original iPad Air, was supported by iOS 14. So I think they already dropped that one last year. And the iPad Air 2 is still supported. So I think it is just the iPhone 6, which I guess means that, no, the SE was a 6S internal, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the original SE is a 6S internally. So I think that one's still supported. So there you go. That was the Apple event. I told you I could do it in less than an hour and 40 minutes.
I would hope so.
It was really good.
Would not have been hard for them to do that either. Now, I do have one item of tech news, just generally speaking. Computex also happened last week.
Yes.
So, awesome. I'm about to, listener, you may be impressed with me for having broken down Apple's entire keynote into, well, I don't know how long we've been going for, about 50 minutes. I'm about to break 3 keynotes down for you in like 10. Okay, you ready for this? So at Computex, Intel, NVIDIA, and AMD all had keynotes, and they all had important consumer-facing announcements to make. We're going to take them in order from worst to best, which means we'll be starting with Intel, because I'm not sure if anybody listening to this podcast has picked up on this by now. I'm not a huge fan of Intel's direction currently, their direction being down.
Spiraling.
This keynote did not help. The only real consumer-facing thing that they actually announced was Tiger Lake U-Series chips. So their U-Series chips are their low-powered stuff. They have new low-powered 10-nanometer U-Series chips. They are fine. Like, they're generic.
Yeah.
They're basically what we expect. Not as many cores as we would like. They are going to cost more than we really think they should. And yeah, sure, they clock really high, so single core performance is fine, but they also use way more power than we expect them to, and they're just not nearly as efficient as anything AMD is doing on their low-powered chip side, to say nothing of Apple. So that was basically the entire event. The presentation was basically all marketing bullcrap, and they're clearly having a hard time pulling things together over there, despite Pat Gelsinger being there. That being said, I feel bad for him. There's a lot of corporate momentum in an organization like Intel, because Intel is freaking huge. Lisa Su shows up at AMD, is she's given the reins of a company that is about to go bankrupt. Like, the organization is already in shambles, and the management, like the entire management layer, is just, they're all like jumping ship and stuff like that because they don't want to be with AMD. So Lisa Su gets there. She's able to essentially exert absolute control over the entire company simultaneously. And then she turns them around. That's pretty impressive. I don't think Pat Gelsinger was ever going to be able to do that at Intel, simply because Intel is just way bigger than AMD, and they're not about to go bankrupt. So there's not nearly as much, like, you can't just walk into the managers and be like, look, the way you were doing things clearly wasn't working. So either leave or do what I tell you to do. Pat shows up and they're all like, look, we're still making bucket loads of money. You're going to have a real good argument for getting us to change things. So I feel bad for him. I don't think that this is Pat Gelsinger's fault. I still have hope that he's going to be able to turn the company around. They just have a lot of inertia and it's going to take some time. It hasn't happened yet. So that was Intel's keynote.
Nice.
Let's move on to NVIDIA. I don't think NVIDIA's keynote was bad. They had some really cool stuff to talk about, But the two things that most people came away from their keynote with were the announcements of the 3080 Ti, the confirmations of the 3080 Ti and the 3070 Ti. These had been rumored for forever. And in an ecosystem where you can't buy any physical graphics cards anywhere for anything close to their actual MSRP, announcing new graphics cards was never going to go down well. So NVIDIA is definitely catching some flack. I'm not sure all of it is deserved, but some of it definitely is. Now, the 3080 Ti, as announced, is, well, and here's the interesting thing. They've both been announced, and since then, they've both launched, actually. So we have independent reviews out for these things. So I'm approaching this from that perspective. The 3080 Ti is basically a cut-down 3090 with half as much RAM and slightly less performance. It performs basically the same in gaming, but because it has half of the RAM for professional work, it's not as good as the 3090.
Right.
That being said, it does cost less. A couple $100 less. It's still like a $1,200 graphics card. Leaks suggest that it was originally supposed to be $1,000, and NVIDIA bumped the price $200 before releasing it because they could. So yeah, that's where we're living right now. Oof. The 3070 Ti, kind of a similar situation. It's a beefed up 3070 with about 10% more of the 3070's performance and a $100 more MSRP, which puts it right between the 3070 and the 3080 in terms of price. So since it's only 10% more of the performance than the 3070, but it costs like 25% more, no, just no. That said, if it's the only graphics card you can get your hands on for MSRP, then I guess, yeah, do it. You're lucky you found one at all.
Yeah, true.
The last thing that they talked about was their good grief, I cannot, DGX2 supercomputer for data centers. Obviously, listener, this is not for you. I don't know what you were expecting, but I wanted to mention it because it only costs $90,000. Which is actually a super good deal when you consider that last year, the original DGX at Computex launched for a price of $399,000. So, you know, costs are coming down in the supercomputer market, if nothing else.
Yikes.
And last, but definitely not least, AMD. AMD, unlike NVIDIA, is coming to the rescue of everybody who's unable to get their hands on a graphics card right now by releasing the Ryzen 5000 series APUs. Unlike previous versions of the APU, like the accelerated processing unit, so listener, that just means these are AMD's chips that actually have discrete or actually have embedded graphics cores on the processor, which means that you can actually use the HDMI port on your motherboard for something.
Yeah. Previous
Ryzen APUs were pretty low powered. You know, you had the last set were the 3200G and the 3400G, which were equivalent to their Ryzen 3 series processors in terms of the number of cores and the speed of those cores. They just had some built-in, whatever their last version of their graphics cores were called. And, you know, better than nothing, but they were not really gaming powerhouses. They announced this at Computex. They announced the 5700G and the 5600G. Now, based on those numbers, you may recognize those as being not i3 series chips. So the 5600 is a Ryzen 5. The 5700 is a Ryzen 7. And so the 5700G has 8 cores, 16 threads. The 5600G has 6 cores, 12 threads. And they're shipping with RDNA 2 GPU cores, meaning that you get the same graphics cores that are in the current generation of consoles, for instance. Now, there aren't as many of them as the current generation of consoles. I imagine that's probably a space and heat concern, but that does mean that they should match the performance of last generation consoles like the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, which is a that's a massive improvement for embedded graphics on the PC space. So, very much. Intel's Xe graphics were kind of nifty for a little while, but nope. Go back to buying AMD. That's if you ever stopped. They also announced the RX 6000M mobile graphics cards. So that's the 6800M, the 6700M, and the 6600M. These are, paralleling the performance of their desktop counterparts one level down, meaning that your 6800 is going to perform at the same level as your 6800M will perform at about the same level as your desktop 6700, and so on. That's just kind of how it works in the mobile space for discrete GPUs, but there it is. This does mean, though, that you're finally able to get a high-end gaming laptop that is fully AMD. With a 6800M and a 5900 HK, or what is AMD's moniker for that? I can't remember. Whatever AMD's moniker for their mobile processors is, that one. But it can be fully AMD. You'll actually be getting a high-end gaming experience. I'm pretty sure this is the first time that has ever happened, where their really good CPUs and their really good GPUs are lining up at the same time. That just does not happen in the history of AMD, so pretty impressive. Fidelity FX Super Resolution, they also talked about that. It was pitched as their competitor to NVIDIA's DLSS. Doesn't turn out to be much of a competitor for DLSS. DLSS is deep learning super sampling, is this technology that allows NVIDIA cards to render an image at 1080p and then use AI to upscale it to 4K, and it looks almost as good as if it was rendering natively at 4K. It's very impressive technology. That is not what Fidelity FX Super Resolution is. It's basically an AI-controlled post-processing upscaler, which it does an okay job of giving you a 4K resolution image out of a 1080p frame, but it's not nearly as good as DLSS. However, it does work backwards to the RX 500 series graphics cards from Radeon. So that's 4 years ago. Wow. And I have one of those. So actually hey, thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's also going to be available for Intel and NVIDIA graphics if it's implemented by the game developers. So AMD's is pushing development out for their own graphics cards across a wide range of their cards. But, if NVIDIA and Intel want to put a little bit of work into it, then they could also make it so that it will work for all of their graphics cards. Probably, they actually showed a demo of it running in a single game. I think it was Godfall, with I think it was a GTX 1060. So yeah, again, you can get 4 years ago on your NVIDIA graphics cards and get some upscaling improvements from Fidelity FX Super Resolution. So that's pretty nice. The last thing they talked about was 3D V-cache stacking, which means they're going to be able to stack the cache for their processors on top of the actual dies. And they've managed to thin the chiplets on their processors such that the full package is about the same height, meaning that you're not going to have weird adapters for your coolers and stuff like that. It'll all still work. Now, what's cool about that, listener, is it means that there is more space for the cache on your processor, which means there can be more of it, which means PC go faster. So that's why I bring it up. But it was actually a pretty sweet event. They talked about stuff that actually matters to consumers, that actually matters to gamers, that is going to actually be tangible improvements to the computers of people who purchase AMD-enabled stuff, which is in stark contrast to anything from NVIDIA or Intel, because NVIDIA released some graphics cards nobody's going to be able to buy in a supercomputer that nobody can afford as a consumer. And Intel released Tiger Lake low-powered chips that don't even perform as well as AMD's chips. So what's the point? So AMD definitely won Computex. And that is Computex. So like I said, about 10 minutes, right? That was about 10 minutes, I think. I didn't actually pay that close attention to the timestamp before I started talking. But listener, if it wasn't close to 10 minutes, you can feel free to send me an email at Wes@callingallplatforms.com. No, I'm just kidding.
because I read those a lot. That's awesome, though. Well, wow. You definitely deserve that drink you're gulping right now.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, lots of good stuff. Man, I don't really have very much this week, but I did want to point something out that I thought was interesting, which I think all of us would think is interesting, and our dear listener. Microsoft is actually going to preview the next generation of Windows on June 24th. We don't know. Most people are just calling it Windows 11. But
I mean, they're previewing it at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
And there was something else in like a tweet.
There was something else
that like added up to 11.
The video that they presented was 11 minutes.
Exactly 11 minutes long. Yes, that was it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can already tell you, I can give you a preview of this operating system right now. It's going to suck.
Because that's the pattern. No, you're right.
Pattern. This one is going to be bad. It's going to take 3 years to fix it, and then
the
next
next
one will be good. Yes.
I mean, what's hilarious about this is that when they released Windows 10, they're all like, this is the last version of Windows. We're turning it into a service from here on. We're never doing another version of Windows after this.
Well, the problem that they did with that, I mean, they were trying to be Apple with 10, but they actually gave it a number instead of a letter.
Oh,
that
was the issue.
If they would have called it Windows 10 with an X, then it would have lasted 20 years. But they didn't, so it's only going to last a few.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, that was the mistake.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see.
It is
see
actually.
Where it comes up. So
as the guy who was hoping for literally decades that Apple would give us some kind of awesome redefinition of an operating system with macOS 11, and then I got frickin' whatever this current thing running on my computer is, which like I hate, but it says right there, version 11, macOS Big Sur. I'm just still so pissed about that. I am hoping that it actually is some kind of fundamental redesign of the operating system, the way that Vista was, like,
yeah, no, I
change
get it.
Everything, Microsoft, please excite me, because I haven't seen a brand new operating system that actually was exciting in a long time.
No, we'll definitely get to see this excitement. I just don't know what to expect, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So I can't be like, yeah, this or that. I have no idea. I really don't. So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely keep you updated. That's in about 2 weeks, 24th, which is a Thursday. So we'll definitely have that info. So that's kind of pretty much all the news I have, because gaming is going to be pretty big starting. I guess it's already started, this E3 stuff. But
it has, yeah. So
we'll talk about it next week.
By the time you listen to this, listener, most of the big E3 announcements will have happened. We're recording on Saturday. A few things have been revealed. There's a few things that were talked about. Yes, they dropped the Elden Ring trailer. Yes, they did this. Yes, they did that. We're just going to wait and talk about it next week, and we can cover it all at the same time.
Yep. Definitely give that information, and Landon will probably be the one talking about most of everything for us on the gaming side.
For sure.
I mean, naturally,
Can't wait for that. The one that doesn't own any kind of gaming device.
Hey, that's a lie. I have an Oculus Quest 2.
Okay,
that's true.
You are beating me on that one. Yes,
that's true.
Actually, I do have an Oculus.
I was going to say, don't you have a Rift S?
I haven't even hooked it up yet. I'm so bad.
He's got a Rift S sitting in a bag behind him, and you just want to plug it in.
Sorry about that. Anyway, I do have a little bit of gaming I did want to mention, but we'll get to that later, because I do have a feeling Landon has a couple things he wants to talk about before we get to there. So
I was just expecting you to skip over because you were already talking about gaming. Like, oh, did you forget that I have news?
I should have just put you on mute. No, I would never.
You can't put me on mute because I initiated the call.
Shh. He's also the engineer, so like,
let's be real. There's probably a lot of things he puts on mute for me. He's like, Wes, you're okay.
You're done.
Mute. You're done. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's let our engineer go ahead and give us his 2 cents.
If I had 2 cents to give, I'd give it, but I don't. But I have some news.
Let's hear it.
So June is meaning updates because that's what happens at the beginning of every month for Android devices, well, Pixel devices, and June specifically means a feature drop. So,
Yes.
some of the stuff that I thought was interesting, there are more things that are in this that I'm going to talk about, but I just don't care about them because I don't think they're interesting. But the ones that are interesting is an update to astrophotography that is on Pixel phones. So right now you can do basically like their night sight type photography, and their astrophotography version is even better. Now you can do videos along with those. So the way it works is it kind of makes a time-lapse video. So if you put your phone outside and you're taking an astrophotography picture of the stars, it'll do that. But at the same time, it'll also make a motion video of the stars moving across the sky. And it doesn't make it so it's like a normal time lapse that takes a couple hours down to a few minutes. This is just like a couple 10 or 15 second video clip of the stars going across. And the previews that they were showing look really good. So obviously we'll have to see how that goes when more people have it and can test it out. But that's pretty cool. That feature is only coming to Pixel 4 devices and newer. So if you're in that camp, you're good to go. If you have a 3 or older, sorry, you're not going to get this. But that's kind of cool though. Another feature that is coming is something called Heads Up, and I believe this one leaked about a year ago. But what it is basically if you are walking and on your device and not paying attention, it'll periodically tell you to, hey, you should probably pay attention to where you're going. So, I mean, I hate that this has to be a feature that is there, but I get that they're doing it. I just think people should just get off their freaking phone and pay attention to where you're walking. Then you won't fall into a pond at the mall like everyone does.
But there's a Pokemon somewhere.
Well, at least in that sense, you're using augmented reality, and you can kind of see what is going on around you through your device.
I mean,
but
you
still
say
happens.
that, you say that,
does,
but
yes.
actually, you can turn off the augmented reality feature of that, and
saves data that way, and I'm sure most people have already turned that off.
Probably.
But I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that you can still see what you're doing while playing Pokemon Go. Not that anybody does, but you can. In this feature drop as well, the locked folder inside a Google Photos is coming. So that's there, will be there. And the next one is something to do with Google Assistant. So as of now, you can already have Google Assistant answer phone calls for you. You can just click the call screen button and it'll answer it, and it'll give you a transcription of what's going on in the phone call. Really cool. But now in this new update, you'll be able to just say, hey, G, answer the phone, or reject the call if you want to, and it'll do that for you without having to touch the device. So if your phone is across the room, or if your hands are dirty or something, you can't touch your device, you can just talk to it and make it do that. And that's kind of a cool feature.
And you know what? I feel like Google Assistant actually could be considered a personal assistant.
Yeah.
Like Siri, no. And even Alexa, no. But
No.
Google Assistant actually makes the argument pretty compelling that,
I mean, they definitely,
this actually is a personal assistant.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely named it correctly from the beginning.
Yeah.
By calling it the assistant, because it's getting more and more like an actual assistant. It's very neat. All right, so that is the June Pixel feature drop. So if you have a Pixel phone, keep an eye out for that. Along with that will be the security update that comes every month. So, the next little bit of news is Google is killing another app because that's what they do. And this one actually hasn't been around for super long. And I actually liked this app. It's the Measure app. And the way this worked is it used augmented reality to be able to roughly measure the length of something. So like if you wanted to measure a space in your house or a table or something like that, it could do that. And I tested it out a few times and used it a few times, and it was fairly accurate within, an eighth of an inch or so, or maybe even less. It was pretty good. It's not quite as good as if you were to have like an iPhone Pro or an iPad Pro that's got the LiDAR detector on it, because that's going to be better just because of the way it works. But for just using the camera, it was actually pretty accurate. So I kind of don't like that they're killing this app. Obviously, apparently not enough people were using it to justify keeping it, but it was a cool app. Huh. So that's now going to be gone, unfortunately.
Bummer.
So, yeah. And that's all of my Google news this week. But, dear listener, I'm going to start off the gaming news segment.
What?
I'm excited.
And I did not warn Caleb or Wes about this.
Yeah, no, this is news.
Yes, and it is news, actually.
Are they killing Stadia too?
No, they're not killing Stadia.
Oh, okay.
Actually, they're doing something with Stadia that should have been done at the beginning. It is finally coming to Android TV and subsequently Google TV, because that is the first place it is coming, is the Chromecast with Google TV. So it is coming via an update to the Chromecast device itself. It will have the Stadia stuff built in. From what I understand, though, you can't quite use it yet, but it is coming. So keep an eye out for that. Something, again, that should have been there when Stadia was launched. It wasn't, and it now finally is. But it's interesting because, like, you can use Stadia with a regular Chromecast. Right. But, like, their high-end, top-of-the-line, best feature set Chromecast, you couldn't. I mean, you could technically cast to this Chromecast with Stadia.
Right.
But now it's going to be built into the system.
See, this is what happens when the Stadia development team and the Chromecast development team have never spoken to each other, ever.
Yeah. It's like old school Microsoft.
It is. No, it's exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, but it is, again, finally coming. So if you are one of the few people that is in that boat that has Stadia and a Chromecast with Google TV or an Android TV device, you have something to look forward to.
Oh, actually, NVIDIA Shield owners rejoice.
Yes,
you can
finally.
You can use your NVIDIA Shield to play Stadia using your NVIDIA controller and everything. That actually would be pretty cool.
I think people did have a workaround for that, but this is the legitimate way to do it.
Yeah, well, browsers probably. I'm pretty sure that there was there were browsers you could download on Android TV devices, and but that just seems really hacky, and this is probably better.
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Cool. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Oh, well, good news. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about Microsoft's new gaming strategy that they came out and talked. They actually had Satya Nadella come out with Phil Spencer and talk about this. So wanted to kind of shed some light on it. Things that they said that were coming down the pipeline for Xbox. So kind of get into here. They did talk about that that Xbox is working with TV manufacturers to embed the Xbox experience directly into internet-connected televisions. So Game Pass on televisions. And I'm assuming that the people that they're talking there is going to be like Samsung, because they already are in business with Samsung mostly. But so you get a Samsung TV, you probably have the Game Pass app on there, which I think is pretty cool. I mean,
yeah. Well, I assume they're probably going to be talking to LG. They're probably going to be talking to, they're going to talk to everybody about it. The one company that I would be surprised if they don't speak to about this is Roku. If I don't see an Xbox Game Pass or an Xbox gaming, what's it just called now? Xbox Cloud Gaming, is that the technical name? Whatever it is. If they don't have an xCloud app available on Roku devices at some point, that's going to be really surprising to me.
If they don't do that, I would consider this a fail.
Yeah, true.
Because even I know multiple people that have smart TVs from Samsung or LG that also have a Roku device because Samsung and LG's smart system is awful.
Not great.
Yeah, they're not. But hey, there's an app that you can do xCloud with. There you go. The next thing they were talking about was new subscription offerings. So different Game Pass subscriptions for everyone. They talked about more to have the most immersive and fun games across device, geographies, and financial realities. So cool. I'm assuming that's probably also their family plan that they've been trying to get. A lot of people have been trying to get a family plan for Game Pass, Microsoft, which would be dope. I just have to do more rewards points. That's what I use. So they did talk about new streaming devices. They are actually building their own streaming device for xCloud gaming that customers can pay or can play games on displays without needing a console. So something like this, if you're wanting to go to someone's house, they have a TV, you can plug it in and just start playing from there. Probably a Bluetooth connection to it, the TV, internet. There you go. They are doing a market expansion for xCloud gaming through Game Pass Ultimate, which will launch in Australia, Brazil, Japan, and Mexico later this year. So that's going to be expanding there. They have come out with the beta for xCloud gaming on web browsers, but they said in the next few weeks that they're just going to open it to all Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members on Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, and Apple Safari. So if that's something you want to take on. So that's kind of more probably for, you got your Surface tablets, your Chromebooks, your, everything that you just want to start streaming games on that isn't, have the hardware for. So, and your phones, obviously. So that will be there. They are also moving cloud gaming. They're actually moving their titles. So they're going to move all the Xbox One X consoles that are in their servers, move them out and actually replace them with Series X's. So you'll have the really fast, really powerful Series X consoles in those data centers. So when you are streaming, you are getting those fast load times, things like that. I have actually been on cloud streaming. Like I'll do that like at work sometimes if nothing's going on. I'm like, I'll do a dailies on Fallout 76 or something. But, oh man, those load times. I have been spoiled. I will say that. I have been spoiled. Oh,
so this is what it feels like to be a pleb.
Oh yeah, no, seriously, go back. I'm like, whoa, you load already? So that's good news, which I really like. So it also is saying that the Xbox Cloud Gaming is coming to the Xbox app on PC later this year. They will add the game capabilities to the Xbox app on PC. So they didn't give a date, but and then also xCloud Gaming is coming to Xbox consoles as well. So the point of this is if, say, you wanted to get into a game on your console before it's downloaded or while downloading, you can stream the game and play it instantly. If you didn't get a chance to download it earlier or anything, you can just get in there and play it. So that's kind of what that means. So
yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
So I thought that was pretty cool. With people that forget, because they do give you options. Like you can hop on your phone and be like, oh, I want to install this game, even though you haven't bought the game. You can actually install it. There's options for that too. But those are some big things that are coming down the pipeline. They talked about, which I think is really cool. They're really pushing that cloud gaming. They're pretty much saying what they've been saying is we don't care what you play on, just play in our ecosystem. You have a PC, play it there. We don't care. You have it here, play it there. Don't care. So, and I would say, do their Microsoft Rewards program because you get a lot of free stuff that way. If not, even gift cards. Just saying. I've had you two on there. I've had a lot of people on there, and they're just enjoying so much free stuff. All these services. So,
well, here's the struggle. they do appear to have gotten rid of the being able to buy the Xbox Games Pass for PC directly via rewards points, which was the only way that I was able to fit it under the envelope of like the number of points you can earn in a month just doing searches.
Yeah.
Like was by doing that. You can get about 7,000 rewards points or something like that in a month by just doing the searches every day. That which is was enough to cover that thing, but that appears to be gone now, which means the only option is to buy a gift card and then pay for that. But the price for that recently went up, and it now costs about 11 or 12,000 points to get to.
Oh, dang it!
I may not have Games Pass for much longer. I'm currently paid through January, I think.
Are you?
But we'll see if that comes back.
We'll see. I bet it will, because you got those PC people. You never know. We might swindle you into doing Ultimate. Just do the rewards for Ultimate.
I can't get enough points for that in a month either. Ultimate, like just to get that is like 10,000 or 11,000 a month.
It is 12.
12? Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's
It's true. It's true. You don't have the Xbox, so you couldn't get those extra points on there too.
Exactly. Like if I were to sign into the Xbox app on my PC every day and like do the in-game stuff for the Games Pass games that will get you points and that sort of thing and various achievements and so on.
Yeah.
Then I could probably do it. But most of my games are in GOG and Steam, and I spend most of my gaming time playing those and or stuff in BattleNet or
True.
Even free games from the Epic Store. Like I don't play in the Xbox app that often as a PC gamer. So
true. And where Xbox games are on Steam now, so
exactly.
So I understand. No, I understand fully. But if you are wanting to be in that ecosystem, rewards points, man.
Yeah.
Or just do them anyway and get some. Do what Landon does and just get some gift cards.
Yeah,
I haven't even done that.
Or buy Office. There you go.
I've just been building up points for however long I've been doing it. I haven't actually redeemed anything yet.
Good Christmas gifts. Here's a whatever McDonald's or Burger King gift card for you.
Here's 10 Target gift cards. They're only $5 a piece, but you got 10 of them. So
there you go. That works. Well, dear listener, that's all the gaming news I have. Hey, Caleb, do you have any?
Listener, crossplay in Overwatch.
Yes. I was wondering if you were going to talk about that.
Crossplay in Overwatch. They released a developer announcement. They're all like, it wasn't even like, hey, we're working on crossplay in Overwatch. It was all like, hey, crossplay in Overwatch is a thing that's like, we're going to be launching it shortly.
Yes.
You know, they didn't give an exact like launch date for it, but I believe they're going to be working on betaing it through the public test server and so on and figuring out how that goes. It's going to be interesting how it's going to work out. They've detailed a few pieces of information about this. So essentially, if you're a console player and you group up with other console players or you're just solo queuing on your console, they'll put you into a console matchmaking system. You'll be playing against other console players.
Might want to. So when you do the matchmaking, it's all types of console players.
Yes, you will be playing with PS4 players, Xbox players, and Nintendo Switch players.
Yes.
Console players. So you're still getting crossplay, even if you're not grouping up to play with PC players. If, however, you do group up with some PC players, then you will be obviously matched with mixed groups of PC and console players, basically to your heart's content. The key thing here is that you'll be able to match up with your friends who have other platforms than you, which is exactly what we've been wanting this entire freaking time, Blizzard. Like, holy crap. Why did this take so long?
We talked about this
in 2016 when it freaking launched.
Day one. We talked about this.
Yeah. Yes. So I am stoked that this is happening. I have friends that play Overwatch on Xbox. I have friends that play Overwatch on PS4. And it's been really frustrating to me that it's like, hey, I can talk to you about Overwatch, but We'll never play together. But now we can. Here's the catch. You do have to have a Blizzard account. You have to set up a Battle.net account and tie your console multiplayer account to your Battle.net account. So your Xbox Live account, you got to tie that to your Battle.net account. That's how crossplay has worked across all of these consoles basically the whole time. So not necessarily surprising, but there it is. It is coming to Overwatch finally. And that gives me high hopes for future Blizzard games like Diablo 4 and so on and so forth.
Oh, yes. Like, I can't wait.
Yep. If you're a hardcore competitive player, I suppose it's worth mentioning that this does not apply to competitive stuff. Like you can't crossplay between a PC and an Xbox in competitive mode because I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, but if you're on a console and you're playing against PC players, then the Widowmakers are just going to have so much fun. They'll just click your head over and over and over again. You will die every time you walk out of spawn. It will be a really bad time. So they're not going to do that in competitive mode. And the people that you run up against in quick play or whatever, they're not that good. So, you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I mean, it would be pretty hilarious to see like some of the Grandmaster console players go up against the Grandmaster PC players just to see once and for all, like what the actual difference in ability is between your keyboard and mouse and your controller. I'd love to see that. Somebody will probably do it. In fact, like in quick play or a custom game mode or something like that. They'll be like, all right, we've got these Grandmaster PC players. We've got these like top 500 console players. Let's put them onto two separate teams and see what the heck happens, because that would sure be interesting. But yes, so doesn't apply to competitive mode, but crossplay is coming to Overwatch. It's been a while since we've really talked about Overwatch on the podcast. I still play Overwatch. I love it. It is still one of my favorite games. I'm really looking forward to Overwatch 2. But the reason we haven't talked about it is because nothing really newsworthy has happened.
Yes.
Until now. This is newsworthy. It's newsworthy every time a game goes cross-platform like this. I love it. That's why the podcast is called Calling All Platforms. Like, please. So there you go, listener. That's my great gaming news. I didn't even look for Doom news this week because I'm like, you know what? Just this is good enough.
Yes, it's good. And to add to that, they did say cross progression will come soon, which is even cooler. Like,
yeah. Yep.
Yes, that is fantastic.
Because then if I do want to do competitive play, I can just hop on my PC and do competitive. Like,
yep. And you'll still have all of your stuff. And
yes.
Yeah, no, and that is, that's important. They said that was going to be coming with Overwatch 2 regardless. So we kind of knew they were working on that. But yeah, they did announce that's not coming with the crossplay update, but it will be coming soon. They're working on it. So yeah, that's pretty great. That being said, like if you have multiple copies of the game across different platforms and you tie them both to your Battle.net account, then like your friends list is going to be available on both of them. Your, loot box purchases and stuff like that is going to be available on both of them going forward. So, there's other improvements there as well.
But, to also add a little bit more to it. So if you are a console player, and you turn crossplay on, like if you go into any competitive or anything, you will play other consoles. It won't actually put you into it with PC players unless you group with PC players.
Yes.
So the idea of this is to just turn crossplay on.
Mm-hmm.
Your queue times and everything will drop.
Yep.
But if you turn it off, you will only be on, obviously, yours. If you're on Xbox, you only get Xbox people. PlayStation, only PlayStation, Switch. Just turn it on.
Yes, because that will let you play with the other console players, which will increase the size of the player base and will drop your queue times. That's fantastic. And even if that's all they were doing, that would be great. The fact that they're throwing the ability to match and group with your PC buddies as well, that's great.
That's amazing.
As a PC person, you can't actually turn it off.
Yes.
Crossplay is just on all the time. And if you Like if you're playing the game and you're just randomly going to get grouped with console players sometimes. So, cool.
Which it's going to be so interesting. I'm actually interested in your take to like be able to point them out. I think there's going to be obvious ones, right? I mean, the turning.
Ooh.
Like remember when you and
When
I
you were
played,
walking,
I actually
yeah.
used a controller, and you're like,
Yes.
I have never seen somebody walk, not run,
Yeah.
walk.
Yeah. Like he's like playing as Farah and her legs are just moving really slowly because he's only just barely touching the stick. And I'm just like, that's creepy. I've never seen that before. On
That was
PC,
fun.
everybody just goes as fast as they can. There's no other option. So yeah, that actually will be interesting. We should do a stream. We'll do a console spotting in Overwatch.
Now that I have internet connection.
Yes, that'll help.
Oh,
and you'll
yes.
be able to play from your console, so you'll have all your skins and stuff, and it'll be more fun. No, that would actually be kind of a fun activity to go group up and do some quick play for a while and see if we can spot the console players.
Agreed. See, and this is the point where they now need. Listen, this is where they can make the money. If you just give me like a skin to throw on Mercy that shows an Xbox logo, I would buy the crap out of that. I really would. Then I can be like, "Yep, go ahead, hunt me down. This will be
Proclaim
fun."
your allegiance. What
Like,
does the
wouldn't that be
PC
fun?
skin look like? I don't know.
See, that would be a tough. Well, I guess you could do. No,
We
you
can't.
just have a Blizzard. You just
Yeah,
have
they
some
would probably.
Blizzard.
That's kind of boring, though. I want to.
It is true,
But they're not going to use the PC Master Race subreddit logo. That wouldn't work.
no, it'd
I don't
be
know.
something like a keyboard and mouse or something. I don't
Just
know.
a mouse.
Who knows?
Superior
That would be
pointing
fun,
device.
though. I would do that. Actually, I did reinstall Overwatch because I saw that. I'm like, I need to make sure my stuff is good with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do it. Brush up on your skills, and then as soon as this drops, we're going to do a stream.
Yes, I need to get on. See, the last time I played, it was either the hamster with the big ball that came out, or the girl McCree. I can't think of
The
her name.
girl McCree.
I can't think of
Ash. Her name is Ash.
Ash. So I can't remember who it was around that time when those ones came out. So
Oh, who's come out since then? Sigma, I think, has come out since then. Boy, I'm gonna have to.
well, there's the guy that I've seen him. He's got the
That floats.
floats, and then there's
Has a
also
shield.
the
Wait, had Batiste come out by then?
no. I haven't
Oh
played Batiste.
man.
Yep.
So you haven't seen Batiste. You haven't played against Sigma.
So that meta game, I'm gonna have to really brush up.
Yeah,
On.
that's gonna be real interesting for you.
Yeah. So,
Good luck.
Yeah. Good. Oh, don't worry. I'll be on your team. I'll do fine.
Or just put it this way: you don't see much in the way of like Farah anymore in the mid tier in Overwatch.
Oh, really?
No, she's just like it's like Farah, Soldier 76, Symmetra, Torb. They used to be everywhere. They're just not anymore. They're just
Interesting.
gone.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's quite the mix-up. Anywho, any other gaming news you want to
fun.
talk about?
Nope, that's it. Just Overwatch.
Okay.
For once, I'm like super excited about Overwatch on the podcast. It's been a while. It feels good.
Well, I'm excited for it as well because not only do you have people on other platforms, so do I, and it's like we can all finally just
Play.
Like, hey, we got an extra spot. Hop in.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. All right. Well, dear listener, it was definitely a while. That was about 2 hours almost. That was a long one.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. Well, let's not make it anymore. So if you do want to get a hold of us, dear listener, you can on our website. You can also get on our social media platforms. If you want to check out any videos and maybe soon any more videos of our recaps of our streams
Hey.
and see how terrible I am
Honestly,
on Overwatch.
oh man, it was so much fun to edit the last one together, the last recap of the Overwatch.
Oh,
stream.
yeah.
That was great.
No, I just found the one, was it Brigitte and just anything I didn't have to aim. I'm like, whatever, just swipe.
Yep.
It was great. Anyway, you can check those out. But you can also, like I said, get a hold of us on callingallplatforms.com. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.